Welcome to the Minnesota Rovers Tuesday evening presentation. Minnesota Rovers is an outdoors club based in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Our members organize trips that range from 1 hour to 2 weeks in Minnesota or further afield. Examples of our activities include hiking, biking, backpacking, skiing, snowshoeing, paddling, and rock climbing. We also organize conservation and trail clearing trips. Our members have experience and skills in many outdoor activities, so if you want to learn a new outdoor activity, we can probably help you. For more information, go to mnrovers.org. Now let's move on to this week's presentation.
Tonight we're here to hear from Sue, a longtime Rover member. Sue's going to talk to us about the mysteries and the histories of Jordan and Egypt. She spent a week in Jordan and 2 weeks in Egypt, checking out and exploring the countries, and she's going to be telling us all about her experiences and showing us pictures and telling us stories. So take it away, Sue.
And hi, everyone on Zoom. Thanks for joining us. I did hear that a couple of the folks that were on this trip with me are also on Zoom. They live in Colorado, so hi, Barb and Dave. I can't see you, but yay, thanks for joining us. Let's see. So I was just in Jordan and Egypt in April and May, and interestingly, part of it was during Ramadan, which added an extra layer of excitement and diversity to the trip. So first of all, the tour company I went with was Intrepid Travel. How many of you ever done an Intrepid Travel trip? I see one hand. They're awesome. I just highly recommend them. It was also coordinated by Travel with Gina, so it was kind of a double layer coordination thing. I looked online and similar trips. The Exploring Jordan for 8 days was about $1,500. The Exploring Egypt, which is 15 days, ranged from $1,600 to $2,100. I had a couple days in front and in back of the trip, and I splurged a little bit on some things. My overall total cost was about $6,000, and I was there 4 weeks. Flights, I flew Minneapolis to Chicago to Amman, and that is what this picture is. I was flying into Chicago, and I could see this other plane landing, and I could see the downtown, and I just got so excited. I wasn't even close to Jordan yet, but I was getting excited. And then between the Jordan and Egypt, we flew from Amman to Cairo. And then from Cairo, I flew home via Paris. What else? I did use my reward credit card to cover most of the flight costs. And I splurged. I did first class in a lay flat to Jordan from Chicago. It was incredible. Well worth the money. I've never been in first class before on an overnight trip. I also was in a single hotel room, most on a single supplement, and I highly recommend that as well. It's just in your face so much with the noise and the different culture, and if you live alone, you're not used to being with people all that time. So if you're a single person, you might want to think about that too. So my trip was about $200 a day, which I thought was okay for a month. So I got to Amman, and that's a view of of downtown Amman from my hotel dining room. One of the first things we did was we had a feast. And as I mentioned, it was Ramadan. It's a month-long period where the Muslims fast during the daylight hours, and then they have these large communal meals after the sunset. And when they fast, they're not just fasting food, they're also fasting water, cigarettes, anything that might be considered a vice or a sin, they fast. So it is just crazy after the sun sets. One of the folks on the trip tried to sneak a little taste of something before the sunset, and the waiter slapped his hand. Nope, had to wait. Regarding the food, we did have to handle it kind of the same way as being in Mexico. We drank bottled water. We were cautious about eating fruits and vegetables. A couple of the folks did have a little, some tummy troubles during the trip. Thankfully, I had different troubles with bugs and mosquitoes. So on April 14th, my first full day there, the early arrivers, we went on a driving tour of 3 desert castles. So I have a question for you. It's back from elementary school. Does anybody remember the rule on how you know the difference of spelling desert and dessert? Dessert has 2 S's because you always want more. Desert has 1 S. And that kind of ran through my head the whole time I was on this trip. On the left is a picture of an old castle. It was actually like an old B&B in the middle of the desert. Folks traveling through, needing a place to stay. We also stopped at the Cave of 7 Sleepers. I might end up not going into too much depth because I'm sorry, guys, I have 86 slides. So I'll try not to get too deep into any of the information. You can ask me later. The majority of the time, our group wore clothes that covered our elbows and knees just in order to respect the Muslim culture. The ladies, we always had scarves with us, but we rarely had to cover our heads. The majority of the Muslim women, I'd say like 99%, had their heads covered. You can see in this picture on this was considered a mosque. They were super conservative. So along with the headscarf I'm wearing, you can see me in the middle picture there. I also had to put this robe on over my clothes. And in the left picture, you can, well, in the middle picture too, that's pretty standard on how we would see the Muslim women dressed. Some had the full burqa, some just had a headscarf. They always were arms and legs covered. On the next day, we took a walking/food tour of Amman. That is one of my favorite things to do. So these pictures, there was an alleyway during the tour that had about 25 tailors set up along the side who would do on-the-spot alterations. I wish we had something like that here. The mural, the next picture is a mural that was supporting equal rights for men and women. That next picture with all the things hanging from the ceiling there, those are tea bags. So, to see if you'll have good luck, people would toss a wet tea bag up to the ceiling, and if it stuck, you were in luck. And the next picture is just a really nice picture of like spices and supplies. Here's some pictures from the outdoor food market. The guide knew all these vendors. I suppose he'd been doing tours for a long time. He's in the upper right picture with the olives talking with his hands right there. That was that guide of just the food tour. He would grab samples from various stalls so we could taste them. The other pictures are some seasoned nuts and seeds. And the lower right, those green things next to the oranges are fresh almonds, and you could just eat them without like the cover, the pod, the shell, and all. They were so soft. Another food that we really enjoyed there were dates. The dates were incredible, just incredible. So many spices. It just smelled heavenly. And then it was so warm, so you could really smell the aromatics of those spices. On the bottom left picture there with the little pyramids, I just thought that was so cute, the little pyramids of spices. And on the right picture there, like many cultures, they just use the whole animal. So on the 16th, it was the official start of our tour. On the right is the tour guide we had in Jordan. His name was Ibrahim, but we all just called him Ibs. His grandmother is an elder of one of the local Bedouin tribes. And he was telling us that someday it's his grandmother and his father and the others and his elders pass away, that someday he would become their sheik. And we really had lots of questions, but we didn't want to like pry too much, but he was just fabulous. He knew so many people. As I'd mentioned, I highly recommend the Intrepid Travel, just specifically because of their local guides. They're really passionate about sharing their country with visitors. And the Jordanians love tourists. We were always being told, welcome to Jordan. Even little school kids would say that to us. And the map there, that's the route we took. We started in Amman. We stopped at Aqaba, stayed a couple nights in Wadi Rum, went to Petra a couple nights, and then Madaba, a little day trip to Jerash, and then we were able to just drive over back to Amman airport. So from Amman, we drove about 5 hours south to Aqaba on the Red Sea. We did a little walking tour of town, some lunch, some time at the beach, and then we headed to Wadi Rum. This was a flag, one of the pictures there of the Arab revolt. And I'm sure you recognize those golden arches there. Ibs referred to that as the American invasion. And then the beach, that's the beach resort as we were leaving. Gorgeous sunset there. Oh, if you go to Jordan, you have to go to Wadi Rum. Incredible. We stayed at a luxury desert camp, and it really was kind of luxurious. That's my room in the middle. I even had a Western bathroom, my own shower. I didn't have to share it. It had a Western flush toilet. That was kind of important. I've got a slide on that. The camps inside the desert boundaries are much more rustic. We were here for 2 nights. The camp is run by a Bedouin tribe. You can see a couple of them walking through the center section there. And the picture on the right is the dining hall.
What's on top of your bed?
Pardon?
What was on top of your bed?
Those were, someone asked what was on top of my bed. Those black things were folded up towels, just like you'd find on a cruise ship bed or something. They were just my towels. So the next morning we went on a hike through the desert. We stopped for tea at a rest stop. Several movies were filmed in Wadi Rum, including The Martian and Star Wars. And the lower left there with us carrying on and the picking up stuff, we actually had to pick up garbage. They gave us a reusable bag and we had to pick up garbage until it was full. That's another reason I like Intrepid Travel. Their mission is to minimize their carbon footprint. He seriously wouldn't let us go on until our bags were full. There was a lot of garbage too. The Bedouin culture is really known for their hospitality. On the right picture there is a camp set up in the middle of the desert, just like an oasis. Oh my gosh, just like you'd see on TV. I just was pinching myself the whole time I was there. The rest stop served tea. They sold souvenirs. Most importantly, they had a bathroom. And it really smelled incredible in that little tent. They had a little fire going on inside, and you can smell the sage and cinnamon tea. Up on the upper left, you can see those teeny tiny little holes. Those were the rustic desert camps. So if you're not in a luxury camp, that's where you're staying. But, you know, rovers have been in worse, so. This was my favorite afternoon. It still takes my breath away looking at this picture. They put 6 of us in one of those trucks. You can see that, like, the sofas in the back of the bed of the pickup. And we drove around the desert. There's a gazillion sand roads, or you can just make your own. We stopped at a slot canyon. We saw petroglyphs. We watched a desert sunset. The temperatures were in the 80s at this point. It wasn't too bad. It was pretty comfortable. But it just, like I said, it still takes my breath away. I love that day. We also stopped where they had some camels. A lot of the Bedouin tribes, families own camels and sell rides for the tourists. That's how they make their money. So here's this young boy with his couple camels selling rides to us. I did not have the nerve. I watched someone else get up on the camel, and it's pretty awkward with their backward knees. Like you feel like you're going to pitch over, and then you feel like you're going to pitch off. And I don't think I could have even gotten my leg over the camel because I'm so short. But it was kind of cool standing next to him. Then we got back, we had dinner, roast chicken, lamb, and rice cooked in an underground pit. That they're taking that out. Then we had this buffet line. Every day we had chicken, lamb, rice, pitas, and hummus. It's really a good thing I like pitas and hummus because every day, almost every meal had pitas and hummus. Salads made of cucumbers, tomatoes, olives, those dates, and lots of nuts. The food was incredible. I never got tired of the food. The next day we went to Petra. Has anyone been to Petra? One, two, couple? It just, again, I'm going to say this 100 times, you guys. I'm sorry. It takes your breath away. It's the capital of the Nabatean kingdom. It's been inhabited since prehistoric times. It's kind of a caravan city situated between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea. It's half built, half carved into the rock, surrounded by mountains, riddled with passages and gorges. It's about 100 square mile area. And there are different things you can go to. You see the map there with the visitor center, and you go through this route all the way to the end of the monastery. I only made it to well, you'll see the pictures. I got to keep going because I got lots of slides. It's accessed through a narrow canyon called the Al-Seek, and I apologize if I mispronounce anything, you guys who've been there. It's over a mile long. It contains tombs and temples carved into the pink sandstone cliffs. It kind of reminds me of Zion. It's referred to as the Rose City. It had a very sophisticated canal system carved into the bottom of the walls to transport water down to the bottom. You can kind of see a peak there of on the right there. Along the way on the left, there's an example of one of the carvings. It used to be a man leading a camel. You can see the camel's belly and feet, and you can see the man's lower legs there. And then there's the treasury on the right. It's kind of a circus, carnival atmosphere down there, full of tourists, vendors, more camel rides. If you can see those little cutouts on the side of the treasury, they're like little holes along the side. Those are the hand and foot holds used by the carvers. That's how they got up there. Just incredible. To the right of the treasury is another canyon that leads down to a vendor section and all the other sites. That kind of gives you a feel of what else it looks like down there. And the background picture is just some of the souvenirs that were being sold by vendors. The next day we visited Little Petra. And a village ruin. Some folks continued on with a really difficult 10-mile hike to the monastery. The left is a cave where people lived, and you can see the stairway that goes to a higher location. The Bedouins were offered homes outside of this UNESCO site, but a few held out, and they still actually live down in that area. The center is an area where weddings were held in that cave, and then that right picture is Little Petra. There's a Bedouin woman making some items to sell. In the middle is a Bedouin selling some refreshments, and it kind of appears like he lived there too. You can't see it, but on that long, narrow sign on the side, that white sign at the bottom, it says, "Help wanted." So someone said, "Sue, you could stay longer and help them out and stay longer." I was like, I'm fine. And then I just love that selfie. It turned out hilarious. Hilarious. I don't even have to say what you guys did. Yeah, it was hilarious. This is the monastery where the other folks went, the 10-mile hike. Part of the hike was descending 800 weathered sandstone steps. You can see there are much fewer tourists there, and photo credit to Dave for this picture because I didn't go there. The next day we went to Carrot Castle and the Dead Sea. The picture on the left is a view from the castle. This area of Jordan is quite green, you can see, and it can support agriculture. The other pictures are just a couple from the castle. And then we drove down to the Dead Sea, and that's a picture of the valley driving down. The Dead Sea is the lowest point on Earth. It's 414 meters below sea level. I had an empty capped water bottle, and you know, on a plane, how your bottles sometimes decompress and fill up. Well, my bottle decompressed due to the elevation change going from the castle to the sea. As a comparison, Death Valley, some of us have been to Death Valley. That is the 8th lowest point. It's 86 meters below sea level. And compass photo credit goes to Ed. So down at the Dead Sea, you can lather up in mud. It supposedly does wonders for your skin. There's me in my mud mask trying my best to stay steady while floating. It's really hard. They don't want you to swim. They don't want you to dive. Just relax, enjoy floating on your back. Well, it wasn't very relaxing, but it was pretty entertaining. The next day we went to Jerash. It's one of the grandest ancient Roman cities in the world. There's pictures of the South Gate, some ruins, and on the right, that red hue is on that basin. It's from stomping grapes way back in the day, way back in the day. The picture on the left, you can see some scrapes on that rock. Those are from Roman chariots. And in the center, by this time, we were always seeking out the shady spots. We had fabulous weather. It rained the day before I got there, cats and dogs, just tons and tons of rain. But then when I was there was no rain at all. Clear blue skies the whole time. This is an incredible amphitheater. That guy down there, he busted out an opera song, and if video would have worked, I would have done a video here for you. And it sounded spectacular, even though there were some sounds of prayers being broadcast in the background. And we also went to Mount Nebo, and that day, it's a spot where Moses is said to have been seen the promised land and supposedly buried. That's a mosaic on the right there, on the floor of a building. It was just so intricate. And also from here, you could see the Dead Sea, Jerusalem, Bethlehem. And that was it for Jordan. Then we transferred over to Cairo. We were almost the entire length of Egypt on that 2-week tour. That's a view from my Cairo hotel there. On the first day of Cairo, we jumped right in. We went to the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. These are pictures of the main pyramid and the camel ride vendors. And the picture on the left, you can see teeny tiny me kind of next to a block. And then you can see me in the center standing next to the block, and I'm 5 feet and a quarter inch. So that's how big those blocks are. Here's a perspective of how the pyramids are situated with the Sphinx on the upper left there. And you're not really in the middle of the desert on this. You can see the city of Cairo behind the pyramids, and that picture with me, you kind of got to squint. And the other picture is the bus driver's view on the way to the Sphinx. I don't know how I don't know, these bus drivers are, I don't know how they could do that. We ended up going on a national holiday that day, and it was crazy busy. So here's a couple different perspectives of the Sphinx. I was amazed I could get a picture without a crush of people in front of me. You can see that crush of people in front of me. And don't ask me how he lost his nose, because I learned it and then promptly forgot. So you can Google that. After we did the pyramids, we took an overnight train from Cairo down to Aswan. And there's my little sleeper car. And again, I was really happy to be sleeping alone, because we would have had an arm wrestle to see who had the upper bunk. That brownish thing was the upper bunk that folded down for someone to sleep. There's my lovely meal and just a picture of the view taking the train down along the Nile. So the next 2 days we spent down in Aswan. This is a little boat ride we took to an island. Aswan is Egypt's southernmost city. We left the hotel at 4:30 in the morning. I don't usually get up at 4:30 in the morning. It was a 4-hour drive, even further south. It was 4 hours each way, down to the temples at Abu Simbel. It really wasn't that far of a distance, but every mile or so there was a speed bump. Every mile. So you couldn't go very fast. And down there in the southern part of Egypt, the temps were about 100 degrees. So the mornings were just so much better for being out and about and being outside. What's notable about the two temples at Abu Simbel is that they were moved by UNESCO in the 1960s. The island they were on would soon be flooded by a reservoir. So we watched a little video on this. It was just amazing how they moved all those. You can see on that picture one of the heads has fallen off, one of the pharaoh, and it was like that before they moved it, and they decided they wanted to keep it factually correct. So when they relocated it, they kept that integrity of that by not repairing the head and putting it right back the way they had found it. Here's some pictures inside the first temple. I was there 2 weeks in Egypt, and I never got tired of being in the temples and the pyramids. And who's been to Egypt? A couple people. Put it on your list. Seriously, put it on your list. It is amazing. So the Egyptians, they really have to hustle. Some of them really have to hustle for a living. A few years ago, their currency devalued by 50%. So they lost a lot of their buying power. They loved American dollars. I brought about 100 US ones with me and to tip. They loved US money. So this guy on the left here, he's a busker. He's earning money. You can take his picture, give him a tip, or your picture with him. The emblem he's holding, it's called an ankh. In its hieroglyphic translates to the key of life, literally meaning eternal life. And you see it everywhere in Egypt. One of the few souvenirs I brought back was a picture of an ankh on papyrus paper. And it just turned out so nice. That picture on the right, I really felt like I was Indiana Jones. Here's some pictures from the second temple that was over there. In the little museum-y thing, they had this graphic of the chronology of landmarks around the world, which was really interesting. That upper left one is the step pyramid, and I'll have a slide on that later. You can see the Great Pyramid there is next to that step pyramid, but there's some other things on there too that some of you may have been to, like Stonehenge, and I've got that bar kind of covering so I can't see my pictures, but it was interesting. I'm not really a big history buff, so I kind of had a different perspective on some of this. The next day, we took a felucca boat on the Nile. We were so excited for this day. We were a little nervous. Like, where are we going to go to the bathroom? And how long are we going to be on the boat? We boarded around 11 o'clock. We sailed around the Nile, mostly in a zigzag circle. And we found a spot to shore up overnight. You can see on the picture on the right, there's a guy. He's on a rudder, like a timber, a big log. That's how they maneuver. They push that rudder with their whole body. It was really interesting to watch. The name of this boat is the Captain Jamaica. And then, of course, I had to Google that. Why is it called Captain Jamaica? Well, the Nubians developed an interest in Bob Marley back in the 60s and 70s. Honest. Now, it's like, oh, this is pretty cool. And they still reference that today. The main deck that we're sitting on there with the covered cloth on it, it's like a giant futon. And crawling was the easiest way to get around. It was probably 4 feet. You probably had 4 feet. So not even I could stand up. There was also a top deck, but there was the boom going around, so you had to be careful, and it was super duper hot up on that top deck. That's the galley on the left. That's where they cooked all of our meals. I just was so impressed with the ingenuity of these folks. There was a bathroom, and I could stand up in the bathroom. Everyone could stand up in the bathroom. They had this teeny tiny spot on the boat that was open, so you could stand up. On the right there is, we're having lunch. They was served family style. Again, salads, hummus, pitas. A couple of views from the boat, a fisherman, a family swimming in the Nile. I don't think I'd swim in the Nile, but some people do. We slept overnight on this boat. On the left are riverboats. Dozens of riverboats would go by, and overnight, 1 or 2 would pass by every 5 minutes, a good part of the night. And I'd just sit there fascinated watching these boats. And in the early morning there, you can see we're all kind of looks like an adult slumber party. Mm-hmm. They did put, you kind of see there's netting. They did put some mosquito netting around the sides. After breakfast, we disembarked for a family homestay. And it was really a challenging first impression. I didn't take any pictures. I was pretty overwhelmed at the time. But many of us agreed that it was one of the best dinners on the trip. So I have a lot of stories and memories, but I don't have any pictures of the family homestay. And then we left that area, went north up to Luxor, went to the Karnak Temple. It was another speed bumpy ride. There's a view from the hotel roof on the left, the Nile River, and the Avenue of the Sphinx. And it used to connect the Luxor Temple and the Karnak Temple. Some more pictures where I could just stand there and with my mouth hanging open in awe. Like, how did they build that? How did they get those up? There's no cranes. There's no electricity. It's just hand tools and things they can make. It just blows your mind what these past civilizations could do. And I didn't mind that I would get people in my pictures, because then you could see the perspective on the picture on the left there. You can see a couple people standing. That's how ginormous these columns were. Here's a picture from our dinner, picture credit to Randy. Oh, the sunsets were just glorious. Then the next day, we still in Luxor, we went to the Valley of the Kings and the Temple of Queen. Yeah. This was such an incredible day. There's over 60 tombs of buried pharaohs there. Our entry pass allowed us to enter 3 tombs for free, and then we paid for an additional couple tombs. And that map on the right shows you where all the tombs were that you could visit. Each tomb had a little preview of what the walkway looked, of the walkway to get there, and some other highlights, what you'd find. You gotta go, just go. This is one of the tombs we paid extra to see, and I'm so happy we did. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't hear you. Can we do questions at the end? Thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't hear you. Every wall, every ceiling was covered with etchings and paintings and hieroglyphics. And our tour guide would explain all this to us. He would explain it early before we got in there in a shady spot. But then I would get into the tomb and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't remember anything said, but I really don't care because I'm just in awe standing here. Just flipping through a few more pictures. That's a ceiling, an arched ceiling. Just so intricate. One of the tombs we paid extra to visit was King Tut, of course. Of course, if you're there, you have to go to King Tut's tomb. And there he is on the right. It was kind of solemn, you know, kind of like being at a funeral. This is Queen Hatshepsut Temple. So I kept seeing this guy on the picture on the left in the pinstripe suit. I kept seeing him on the bus. And like at the sites we're at, it's like, who is this guy? And I later learned he was our armed security. And if you looked hard enough, you can see there's a gun poking out of his pocket. On the right was later on the trip, a cop car in front of us. It was a police escort on our drive from Cairo to Alexandria. He was veering us out of a traffic jam. It's kind of considered a risk for tourist buses when they get stalled on the freeway. So, you know, I don't know if these facts made me feel more or less safe. But we did do some Googling on what's going on. And what we found out is, sorry, Barry, I'm reading now. Per Egypt's Ministry of Tourism webpage, each tour includes a minimum of 2 police escorts to accompany guests. Their economy relies heavily on tourism. And personally, I did notice most of the tourists were not Americans. I didn't really see a lot of Americans over there. And again, the Egyptians were very friendly. The vendors at the tourist locations, however, were very aggressive. As I mentioned, they really have to hustle to make a living, and often would be approached by children trying to sell us items. They'd hang out by the door of our bus. And we had to refrain from buying things from them because they're supposed to be in school. And it would just be enabling them if we were buying things from them. That was in Jordan as well. And one kid was really a real entrepreneur. He started singing us a song. He didn't sell us something. He started singing us a song and going, oh, and then of course we had to tip him. And then we thought, oh, he got us. He's supposed to be in school. The next couple days we spent in Hurghada. It was a town on the Red Sea. Some views of the Red Sea there. We stayed at that beach resort. Some folks ventured out on a boat for snorkeling. I stayed in town. I went to a mall. Felt like being at home. I had to buy some socks because socks get pretty filthy with all that sand, even when you have shoes on. Did not bring enough socks. It was really a much appreciated down day. I'm on slide 61, you guys. I only got 20 left. So it was a 6-hour drive from Hurghada back to Cairo. We were in Cairo one night before we went up to Alexandria. We went to a souk, an outdoor market, and it was ginormous. Some of the fun phrases I heard were, "Hey, lady," and "little store, little prices," "medium store, medium prices." "How can I help you spend your money?" "Almost free, almost free." And then there was the guy selling cigarettes who sounded like he was selling beer at a ball game. These streets were jam-packed, just jam-packed with stalls and people, and the buses had to drive through. Here's one cornering around. I didn't know how he was going to make that corner. And then when we were in our bus, again, another miracle bus driver driving through that crowd of people. Just amazing. Here's our drive to Alexandria. Really interesting things on the freeway there. Really interesting things. I wondered on that bottom right picture with the pyramids in the background, I wondered if the Cairo locals ever got tired of looking at the pyramids. Like, do you ever get tired of looking at Lake Superior? I never get tired of looking at Lake Superior. I don't think I'd ever get tired of looking at the pyramids either. So while we were in Alexandria, a couple days, we went to the catacombs. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. On the right, there's on the picture on the left, in the right, our tour guide, Sam. He was incredible. He was so nice. He was funny. These tour guides, it's their passion. Sam was telling us since he was a little boy, he wanted to be a tour guide. He just loves his country that much. They really made the trip, these tour guides. Again, a view from the bus, people making a living, hustling, teeny tiny little shop. I wish I could have gotten some pictures of the people. They were so friendly. They were waving, they were smiling, they'd blow a kiss to me. I had one person do the little heart thing, looking at me in the bus. They were so friendly. I really felt welcomed there. This is a sunset from our hotel in Alexandria. And I got to give photo credit to Gina for this one. The second day in Alexandria, we went to the Biblioteca. This exterior wall of that library has inscriptions from in 120 different languages. There's a panorama picture of it inside. The library has 11 levels, seating for 2,000 people, and it can hold over 8 million books in all languages. We spent a good amount of time there. It has a little museum honoring Anwar Sadat. Sounds like I was a little bit like I was just a little kid, so I didn't know much about him, but it was fascinating going through that museum. And then on the right, that's a bench. Isn't that a fun little bench? I know, right? I wish I'd put something in there to give it a little more perspective. So a view of the bay. It was a busy 6-lane road, and none of us really felt comfortable trying to cross the road because the traffic norms are totally different there. And again, I had a video that shows cars, motorcycles, pedestrians, dogs, motorbikes. They don't stop. They just okay, it's like everything merges and just figures it out. Boy, I'm the one who waits for a crosswalk sign and there's no cars. So that was a little intimidating for me. There were a lot of mosaics in town, but we spent a lot of time on a bus. That was one of the downsides of this trip. We spent because we covered so much of the country, we were in a bus a lot. And it was really hot, so we kind of didn't mind. Somehow we were able to visit this mosque. I was just amazed that they let us inside and I just had to cover my head. I didn't have to do anything else. The picture on the right was the list of all the prayer times for the day. And it's kind of loud. They put it over a loudspeaker in town and when it's time for prayers. Oh my gosh, Alexandria is known for its liver sandwiches. Who likes liver? Nobody. One. These liver sandwiches were awesome. That was awesome. And it was across the street from a hotel. This was the sandwich crew. They were so nice. We had fun talking to them. We ordered multiple rounds of sandwiches because we didn't know we liked them. And it's like, oh, these are really good. It's thinly sliced liver cooked with garlic, a super fluffy bun, optional peppers, and a squeeze of lemon. I think we had 3 or 4 each. We just kept buying them. They were so delicious. If you're ever in Alexandria, get a liver sandwich. So then we went back to Cairo the next day. We stopped at a war museum, a military cemetery. This picture on the left, it's a planned city. There's a lot of planned cities in the works, and some looks like some were abandoned. But this particular planned city, they were trying to emulate Dubai on the Mediterranean. This was the cemetery we went to. One of the fellow travelers has a hobby job. She called it I like that hobby job. I wish everyone had a hobby job, right? In the mortuary industry and enjoys genealogy. And she was telling us about an app that helps folks looking for information on tombstones, like Anne Clark. I mean, if his family was in the States or a different country, maybe they can't get to see his tombstone. So it's called Find a Grave. If you're ever at a cemetery, you can open the app, see if anyone is looking for a gravestone at that cemetery. And if you find it, you can take a picture so they can have a picture of that tombstone. So that's the end of the tour, but you guys got to get through me. I got 2 more days here, 2 more days in Cairo. So we visited the Egyptian Museum. The tombs we had visited earlier down there in Luxor, they were empty. They'd either been taken out by the government or thieves, but a lot of the items previously in the tombs are in the Egyptian Museum. So there's some things. That bottom right-hand one is a chariot, and they had a story of what the chariot was about and whose tomb it was. But that was fascinating, a chariot in the tomb. The next day we went to Memphis and Saqqara. 3 of us hired our own guide and a driver. The official tour had ended. The first stop was Memphis. This guy on the left here was Ramses the Great. I do have a little bit of history here. He was regarded as one of the greatest and most powerful pharaohs in Egypt. He had a reign of 66 years. That's a long time, even, for someone to be alive back then. But during those 66 years, he fathered 90 children. That's a lot of kids. How many Egyptians share that DNA, right? And then that is the 2nd largest sphinx in Egypt there as well. So driving to Saqqara, we went past this active archaeological site. And the woman on the very, very left in the hat and the blue shirt, she's kind of crouching down. She seemed really excited about finding something. I just wished I could have hung out over there for a while. It would have been fascinating. This is a step pyramid. It's the very first pyramid and the first large stone building in history. You kind of feel like a tiny speck when you're looking at that old amount of history, just a tiny speck in the whole span of the world, of the universe. Up on the left are pyramids number 2 and number 3. The second pyramid had a slope of 59 degrees, which was too steep. We jokingly called it the test pancake. The third pyramid had a 43-degree slope, and it was just right. Pyramid number 4 is the Great Pyramid in Giza. And then the pyramid on the right is what happens when they collapse. Oh, now I just got a few more slides. Observations. You'll be living outside your cultural norms, but isn't that why we travel and explore, to get outside of our cultural norms? The alphabet and the language is different. The clothing, the gender expectations are different. All the society rules are different. Driving, tipping, noise, litter. There's a lot of litter. Different religion, the Muslim and the prayers and the Ramadan, that was all different. And I just want to say, animal lovers, I'm not going to share stories, just be prepared to be heartbroken. That's it on that. This is a picture of a truck. I think someone was living in it. You can see it's got those flat tires on it. Just, like everyday, that's everyday things you see. Bathroom tips, very important. Always carry some small change and toilet paper with you, plus enough to share with your friends. It was very fragile plumbing, so we were told not to flush any toilet paper. We had to use you can see a sprayer hose. That's kind of like in Asia as well. And you had to put your toilet paper in the trash. And every shower I was in, I felt like I was going to fall and break my neck. Every shower, even when we had a super nice hotel, every shower. I don't know what they, like, wax them or something? I don't know. Food, oh, my favorite part. Whoops. Up on the upper left are camel kebabs. And then you can see some chips. It was KFC flavor. They also had like meat flavor. Such different stuff, right? And then I had on one meal my own little personal grill with a kebab on it. I ordered kebabs a lot. I loved the kebabs. One day we went to a seafood place, a local place. Again, our guide brought us to a local place, not a tourist place. And you had to pick out your fresh seafood. They weighed it. You paid for it. They cooked it the way you wanted it to cook. You had 3 or 4 options. And then the table had a bunch of little salads on the side, and that was my meal. Oh my gosh. You can see there's pita and hummus and some rice, and I had shrimp, I had calamari, and a bunch of little salad. They had a lot of beets there too. Nuts. Oh, and then another sunset and time for questions. Thank you. We were, and they partied in the streets until 4 a.m. That was one of the noise things I was talking about. A lot of our hotel rooms were right in town, and you had to listen to the partying all night. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you say more about the homestay?
Oh, yes. Yeah, and I forgot I had to repeat questions. So the question I just answered was there for the holiday at the end of Ramadan. Sorry, I should have repeated that. Oh, I'm sorry. I have hearing aids.
The name of the holiday is Eid al-Fitr.
I think I still can't say it. Okay, but your question was, can I tell you more about the challenging homestay? So we had just gotten off that felucca boat, and we weren't able to stand for 24 hours unless you were going to the bathroom. So we were all kind of cramped up and sore, and we were that adult slumber party, and some people snore, and the mosquitoes a few mosquitoes snuck in, so we were tired. We hop in the back of a truck. We were surprised the truck was running. It was one of those open air sit in the bed trucks. And they take us to a part of town that had been damaged by an earthquake. And we thought, there's no homes here. Where are we going to stay? But in a lot of the countries, it's like on the inside in a courtyard, and it looks better once you get inside. But we stopped at the place, and we were, it wasn't a hotel. It was a homestay. There were children, young children, that a couple of folks got bit. They'd go into our room and kind of sift through our bags, the children. It was really hot. We were really tired. But then it just kind of got magical afterward. And they made one of the best dinners we had. I mean, it was fabulous. And some of the folks did stay up later after dinner, and they got some gorgeous henna tattoos. And, once you start talking to the people are lovely. People are awesome. And they loved having us. And they were so hospitable. I was just super tired. And that's the day I got a bug bite on my eyelid, and my eye swelled shut. And so we were just kind of tired. I don't think I would have stayed on that felucca boat overnight. So, there's some things you just don't know until you experience it. So, and everything I say, I don't want to say anything. It's just different. It's not good or bad. It was just different. Different cultural norms. But again, that's why we travel and explore. So that was the overnight stay. Yeah.
If you were going for a shorter amount of time, say 2 weeks, what would you do? What were the highlights that you would?
Oh, okay. So the question was, if I were just going to stay for 2 weeks, what were the highlights? What would I do? I would definitely go to Wadi Rum, definitely go to Petra in Jordan. I would definitely, you have to experience Cairo. It is a crazy, I can't even hardly explain it. I had to explain the state fair to my friends from Colorado. And how do you explain the state fair, right? I mean, it's like a little city, but Cairo is ginormous. I don't know who's been to Cairo. I mean, how can you explain Cairo, right? It's huge, and it's busy, and it's in your face. A lot of stuff was in my face. I would do the Valley of the Kings, those tombs. Of course, the Great Pyramids. Like, if you go all that far, you got to go to the Great Pyramids. I might have skipped like the sea stays. Although on a 4-week trip, I needed that for downtime. But yeah, I'd go to the Dead Sea. That was pretty cool. I mean, I've been to the Dead Sea. I've been to the lowest place on the earth. It's kind of bragging rights. Does that help? Okay. I'm going to take a peek here at the chats. I got to figure out if I find it. No questions? Okay. Yeah.
So how old is the whole pyramid?
I'd have to go back. Someone asked how old is the oldest pyramid. I would have to go back and look at that slide. They told me all this stuff, but history isn't my thing, so it kind of goes one ear and out the other. But if you ask me anything about income taxes, I could tell you that.
So, like all those different temples and things, like, are we talking 100 BC or are we talking 200? Like any particular range, or it's like 1500? 1500 BC. Okay.
Someone they're asking about the age range of the oldest pyramid, which
I remember from your slide, it was 2600 BC.
2600 BC. Thank you, David. Yeah.
The Intrepid travel group that you went with, how many people were in the group, and what was the composition?
Oh, that's a great question. The question was, on the Intrepid travel tours, how many people were on the tours and what was the age range? In Jordan, it was like perfect, eight or nine people, perfect size. And because it was a 4-week trip, you know, it was probably more retired folks because they're the folks that can be gone for a month. But on the Egypt trip, we had 17 people, which felt a little too big. But there was one guy on the Egypt trip who was younger. Oh, I don't know, 40. And don't laugh. And his thing was Egyptian history. Oh my gosh, it was just fabulous being with someone who just ate all that stuff up. And he was buying tons of souvenirs from, he'd talk to anybody. He'd talk to anybody on the street. It was really fun having him on the trip.
How much did people speak English?
Oh, Fran's asking, how much should people speak English? Our tour guides spoke very good English. You know, you could tell, of course, they had an accent, but very, very good English. Almost all of the tourist vendors and restaurant people speak English. I mean, that's in most of these foreign countries, you have to know English if you want to make a living. I mean, it's if you're in a city, you almost always have to know English. I got some folks nodding heads here.
So I think somebody started to ask you when you were in some of those tombs and looking at all of this stuff. Was it illuminated inside, or what brought out all those colors?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the question was, when I was in the tombs, was it illuminated so I could see it? Yes, they had brought electricity down and had lit things up, and they had walkways. They did not have air conditioning though, and it was getting, the further you went in, the stuffier and hot, and then there was a lot of people, a lot of tourists. But it was very well lit, so you could see things. Yeah.
How much were those extra tombs Valley of the Kings? Like, I think that's how much.
The question was, how much were the extra tickets for the Valley of the King tombs? I honestly don't remember, because I figure when I'm there, I am never going to be there again, and I'm going to pay for it, and it was worth it. So a ticket to get in was part of our tour cost. It was covered by the tour. I'm just gonna kind of maybe throw out a guess, maybe $10. Even $20 would have been worth it for me.
I saw a question pop up, but then it disappeared. But one of them was, do you recommend Intrepid?
Oh, yes. The question on Zoom, do you recommend Intrepid travel? Hardly. I very, very much recommend them. In fact, the Colorado folks that were on the trip with me did a trip to Antarctica with Intrepid Travel. Oh my gosh, that's another thing you got to put on your list. They invited me, but I said, do you know where I live? I live in Minnesota. I get to see snow and ice every day. I'm not going to go.
When she mentioned illuminated, did they redo the tombs, or was that all the original?
That was all. The question was in the tombs, did they redo anything, or was it original? It was original. It was original. It's, and a lot of it you could see was fading, but it depended on what kind of dye they used. Like that blue dye must have been something incredible, because that did not fade. But a lot of it was faded. So I have a question for you. Who's going to go and have a beer with me at Ladonia? Yes. I'm sorry, Zoom people. I'm so sorry you can't join us for a beer.
They could just.
Oh, come on. Oh, yeah, Zoom people, come on. Just hop on a plane from Colorado, you guys, and have a beer with us, okay? Anything else before we head over to the bar? Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for watching this Minnesota Rovers presentation. If you want to see more, please click on the link to our channel or the subscribe button below. Thank you.